Something unprecedented is happening deep within Siberia. Reports are surfacing of a mass disappearance, not of individuals, but of an entire workforce critical to Russia's vast railway network. Why are thousands of railway workers abandoning their posts? And what catastrophic ripple effects will this have on the country's ability to transport essential goods and maintain order? Join us as we unravel this developing mystery. At first, it sounded like rumor, whispers from small towns along the Trans-Siberian line. A missing conductor here, a vanished repair crew there. But by late summer, satellite images showed long stretches of idle trains stacked up on sidings near Krasnoyarsk and Irkutsk. Local journalists who tried to report on it were told to stay quiet. Within weeks, entire depots went dark. Workers' dorms stood empty, meals uneaten, and pay slips left uncollected. The scale quickly became impossible to ignore. Russia's rail system employs nearly 1 million people, with over 86,000 kilometers of track spanning 11 time zones, more than any other country on Earth. But internal memos leaked from the Ministry of Transport suggest that in some Siberian regions, up to 20% of the workforce has vanished since mid-2024. The effects were immediate. Coal trains from the Kuzbass mines were left stranded. Freight lines connecting the Pacific ports of Vladivostok and Nakhodka slowed to a trickle. Grain exports meant for China and Kazakhstan backed up in warehouses, unable to move. Even the Trans-Siberian, that proud artery linking Moscow to the Far East, is now running at only a fraction of capacity. This isn't just another worker shortage. It's an unraveling of one of Russia's most vital systems, a system built to move the lifeblood of an empire. So what's pushing these men and women to abandon their livelihoods, their homes, and in many cases, their entire way of life? The answer, it seems, lies in a combination of fear, fatigue, and financial despair. First, the economic reality. Russia's economy has been under immense strain since international sanctions tightened following the invasion of Ukraine. Inflation has quietly climbed into double digits. In isolated Siberian towns, the price of bread has doubled, and heating fuel, vital for survival through winters that can reach -40 degrees, has tripled in cost. Yet railway workers report wages that have remained frozen for years, often paid late or in part. Interviews with former employees posted on Telegram channels describe conditions that sound closer to survival than employment. One worker from the Omsk Rail Division said he had to choose between sending money home to his family or buying food for himself. Another said his safety gear hadn't been replaced in 2 years. We patch it up with tape and hope not to die. Then there's the fear of mobilization. Across Russia, men between 20 and 50 live under the shadow of military drafts. In late 2024, leaked recruitment documents revealed that technical specialists in logistics and transport, code for railway personnel, were being prioritized for conscription. With railway management cooperating with local draft offices, many workers saw the writing on the wall. One day you're driving a freight train, said a former engineer on an anonymous forum. The next day you're driving a tank. And beyond money and fear, there's exhaustion. Endless overtime, collapsing bridges, and deadly accidents have become routine. Official reports show a 30% increase in rail incidents across Siberia in the past 2 years. Fatigue, outdated machinery, and budget cuts have turned what was once a symbol of pride into a daily gamble. The human spirit can only take so much, and in Siberia, it finally broke. The consequences of this mass flight are spreading like cracks through ice. Russia's railways aren't just part of its economy, they are its economy. Nearly 85% of all freight inside Russia moves by rail, from oil and coal to steel and grain. Without them, the entire system grinds to a halt. Already, bottlenecks are paralyzing trade routes. The Siberian coal basin, one of the world's largest energy suppliers, is facing record backlogs. Power plants in western Russia are reporting supply shortages. The Yamal and Sakhalin oil fields, crucial for exports to Asia, are struggling to move crude. Even food shipments from the agricultural heartlands are delayed, pushing up prices nationwide. The military, too, is feeling the impact. Russia's defense logistics depend heavily on rail, to move equipment and troops across its vast territory. Analysts at the Institute for the Study of War note that supply delays could disrupt the flow of ammunition and vehicles to the Ukrainian front. Satellite photos show hundreds of freight cars loaded with military cargo sitting idle near Novosibirsk. For ordinary Russians, the fallout is becoming personal. Small Siberian towns that depend entirely on the railway for fuel and food deliveries are now rationing supplies. Local stores report shortages of bread, meat, and even medicine. Some communities, hundreds of kilometers from the nearest road, face the chilling prospect of isolation as winter approaches. Internationally, markets are taking notice. Delays in Russian coal and oil exports are already nudging global prices upward. China, one of Moscow's largest trading partners, has quietly begun shifting import routes to bypass Russian bottlenecks. What began as a regional labor crisis is morphing into a geopolitical shockwave, one that could ripple far beyond Russia's borders. Yet, inside the Kremlin, you'd barely know anything was wrong. The official narrative? Everything is under control. State media outlets like RIA Novosti and Russia 24 have dismissed reports of a worker exodus as Western propaganda. Instead, they claim temporary maintenance cycles and seasonal staffing adjustments are to blame for slowdowns. But leaked correspondence from the Russian Railways Internal Security Division paints a different picture, one of mounting panic. Behind closed doors, emergency meetings have been convened between the Ministry of Transport and Russian Railways executives. Officials are reportedly demanding rapid restaffing plans and exploring ways to replace skilled workers with hastily trained recruits, even military reservists. The Russian government has also started offering financial bonuses to anyone willing to relocate to Siberia, but uptake has been minimal. Meanwhile, the Kremlin's propaganda machine is in full swing. Television segments now feature smiling workers volunteering for duty on the frozen tracks, waving flags as patriotic music swells. Social media accounts linked to state media share upbeat videos of progress and loyalty to the motherland. But independent journalists tell another story, of silence, censorship, and fear. Regional officials in Siberia have been warned not to amplify panic. Reports of missing workers are scrubbed from local news sites within hours. Some whistleblowers have even been detained under laws against spreading false information. Still, the truth leaks out in grainy videos, anonymous posts, and testimonies from families wondering where their fathers and brothers have gone. Wait a second. If you are new to this channel and you like what you see and hear, please subscribe, like, and join the conversation below. If you're not convinced yet, subscribe and tell us how we can earn that click. We're all about getting better together. Let's move on. Inside government circles, frustration is building. Some insiders reportedly blame the Defense Ministry for pressuring the workforce with conscription. Others point fingers at Russian Railways leadership for failing to maintain morale and safety. A quiet power struggle is brewing, and it's becoming harder to hide. As the Kremlin fights to keep the illusion of stability, the real crisis, the one unfolding in the endless stretches of Siberian snow, grows darker by the day. With the exodus still unfolding, Russia now faces a reckoning it can no longer postpone. The railways, once a symbol of unity across the world's largest nation, are breaking apart, and the road to recovery looks uncertain at best. The long-term damage could be staggering. Experts estimate that disruptions in freight movement are already costing Russia billions of rubles per week. A recent analysis from the independent Moscow Times suggested that a sustained slowdown of even 15% across the national rail grid could shave nearly 1% off Russia's GDP annually. And that figure doesn't yet account for the cascading losses in the energy, mining, and defense sectors, all of which rely on a functioning railway backbone. Russian Railways, the state-owned behemoth once celebrated for its efficiency, now faces an impossible task: rebuilding a workforce that no longer trusts it. The company has begun recruiting aggressively, offering higher salaries and patriotic incentives to lure replacements. But training new personnel takes months, sometimes years. The specialized knowledge of track engineers, locomotive technicians, and signal operators isn't easily replaced. Meanwhile, social tensions are simmering. Across Siberia, Families of missing workers are demanding answers. Telegram channels and local community forums are filling with stories of men who fled, were detained, or simply disappeared. Some claim that deserters are being hunted down or pressured to return under threat of prosecution for abandoning critical infrastructure. Others describe growing resentment toward Moscow, a sense that the capital treats Siberia as expendable, draining its resources but offering little in return. In cities like Yekaterinburg and Irkutsk, quiet protests have begun to form. Small gatherings of workers' families holding handwritten signs demanding justice for railwaymen. Police presence has been heavy, and footage of arrests circulates online before quickly being taken down. Still, the unrest lingers. Even in Russia's farthest reaches, people are beginning to question how long they can endure shortages, broken transport links, and rising prices without change. The government, for its part, appears torn between two paths: doubling down on control or acknowledging the depth of the problem. Recent leaks suggest the Kremlin is considering partial militarization of railway operations, effectively placing the network under defense ministry oversight. If enacted, it could mean conscripting thousands more into forced labor to keep trains moving, a move that risks deepening public outrage. Internationally, the consequences continue to spread. Russia's trading partners in Asia and Europe are quietly adjusting routes, seeking more reliable corridors through Kazakhstan and China. Global energy traders warn that persistent rail bottlenecks could limit Russia's export capacity for months, if not years, putting additional strain on world fuel and grain markets. And yet, amid all this, the Kremlin's silence remains deafening. No official investigation, no televised address, no acknowledgement of the true scale of the problem. Just the faint hum of propaganda and the growing emptiness along the tracks. As winter deepens and Siberia's endless railways fall quieter still, one question looms over the horizon. How long can Russia keep its vast machine running when the people who built and sustained it are walking away? The story of Russia's railway exodus isn't just about trains, workers, or even politics. It's about the slow unraveling of a nation's lifeline and the human toll hidden beneath it. For more than a century, the iron veins of the Trans-Siberian have bound Russia together, stretching from Moscow's spires to the frozen Pacific. It carried soldiers through wars, freight through famine, and generations of families through the wild expanse of the taiga. To lose it now, not to sabotage or invasion but to quiet despair, feels like history folding in on itself. Out on the steppe, the silence is spreading. The hum of engines replaced by the wind through broken signal wires. Empty cabins, rusting railcars, and fading graffiti. For our brothers, we won't return. Each message tells a story of those who once kept the trains alive. In Moscow's corridors of power, the denial continues. Reports are buried, numbers rewritten, questions deflected. But the truth doesn't vanish so easily. Every stalled freight car, every unlit station, every empty timetable whispers the same thing. Something inside the Russian machine has cracked, and no amount of propaganda can weld it back together. The exodus from Siberia is more than a labor crisis. It's a mirror held up to a country at war with itself, between duty and survival, loyalty and truth. And as the tracks freeze over and the locomotives stand still under the weight of winter, one haunting question remains. When the trains stop running, what else will stop with them? Thanks for making it this far. It means you like what we do here at Eurobulletin. We will appreciate if you took 5 seconds to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on your views regarding the topic. See you tomorrow for another video.